There's a moment, subtle, nearly imperceptible, when something stirs beneath the surface of your daily life. It doesn't come with a shout, nor does it announce itself in grand, glowing letters. It comes quietly, a flicker behind your eyes, a feeling that the world isn't as solid as it seems. And perhaps just now you've felt it. Maybe that quiet tremor inside you isn't imagination. Maybe it's recognition. You're not here by accident. Some part of you, ancient and intuitive, has brought you to this moment. You didn't stumble upon this message. You were drawn to it, as if a silent call within you was finally answered. The truth is not something new to be discovered. It's something old remembered, a knowing buried under years of noise and distraction, waiting patiently for your return. And if you're still listening, it means that part of you, the one that's been waiting, has started to wake. Have you ever caught a chill in the middle of a calm day, as if the air around you whispered something your ears couldn't catch? Or found yourself sensing things before they happened, knowing things no one told you? That wasn't coincidence. It wasn't your mind playing tricks. That was you brushing against a veil, the thin film that separates the seen from the unseen. We live in a world layered over another. And while most walk through life, eyes closed to this hidden realm, a few, like you, sense there's more just beneath the surface. For generations, the guardians of this secret have been few, not because it's forbidden, but because it's potent. It's the kind of knowledge that behaves like lightning. It can illuminate or it can destroy, depending on the hands that wield it. That's why it wasn't handed out freely. It was earned. It was whispered from mentor to pupil, from one brave soul to another, who dared to look past the surface and into the unknown. Now the time has come again. The world is stirring. You feel it in your bones, a kind of unrest, a hum under everything, like a signal trying to break through static. Your thoughts feel heavier, your dreams more vivid, and a strange longing calls to you. A yearning not for something new, but for something lost. That's the signal. That's the pull of a truth that has waited for you since before you had words to describe it. Take a breath. Not the kind you take without thinking, but one you draw in deliberately. Let the air fill every corner of your lungs. Let your awareness sink into the moment. Ask yourself quietly, beneath the noise of thought, if you're ready to step past the illusion. There's a cost to seeing clearly. Once the illusion dissolves, you can't rebuild it. But with that clarity comes liberation. There's a gift you were born with, one that you've used without knowing. Every time you dreamed, every time you sensed danger without evidence, every time someone's gaze found you from behind and you turned with certainty, this gift was working. It's not mysticism. It's not fantasy. It's a latent faculty, as real as your sense of smell or balance. You simply forgot how to access it. Think of it like an inner lens, a perception not tied to your eyes. Every night you slip into it when you sleep. You walk through entire worlds, feel emotions deeply, even fly or speak languages you've never studied. You do all this without your body. That isn't imagination. That's evidence of your untapped power. You don't need to acquire anything. It's not something you earn through money, status, or charm. It's a sense just like hearing or touch. You've just let it sit idle, like a piano gathering dust in a silent room. But it's still tuned, still waiting. And the moment you remember how to use it, the moment you point your attention inward and listen to the silence behind your thoughts, you'll feel it stir. Look at children, not the ones trained by rules and expectations, but the very young, those who stare at corners of rooms with wonder, who laugh at things no one else can see. Their minds haven't been walled off yet. They still wander freely between what adults call fantasy and what the ancients called truth. And we all began that way. The difference isn't in nature, it's in memory. Your brain is a cathedral of possibility, processing a flood of information every second. But your conscious mind filters most of it out, showing you only what's deemed relevant. But those instincts, those sudden moments of awareness, slip through the cracks. They are the whispers of something bigger, something watching, something guiding. I want you to try something. Turn your attention inward to the space between your brows. Not forcefully, just gently observe. Maybe you'll feel a tingling, maybe a subtle pulse. Some feel a warmth, others a quiet pressure. That's the doorway. That's where the veil begins to thin. And by simply noticing, you're already peeling it back. There is a structure to awakening, not in the sense of a rigid formula, but like building a fire. You need the right elements in balance. You can't force flame without spark, fuel, and air. In the same way, there are 3 inner alignments that must come together for this gift to awaken fully. The first is stillness, not silence, but stillness of thought. A quieting of that constant inner dialogue that narrates your every move. This stillness isn't empty. It's full of power, like the silence before a storm. When your thoughts stop racing, something else begins to speak, and it's wiser than words. Next is breath, not the unconscious rhythm of survival, but deliberate sacred breath. When you choose to guide it, your breath becomes more than oxygen. It becomes a bridge. The old traditions knew this. They saw breath as the thread between soul and flesh. With each slow inhale, you invite awareness. With each slow exhale, you release the chains of tension and distraction. The third is focus, not the kind demanded by screens or tasks, but a deep, sustained awareness. Most people scatter their attention across dozens of things each hour, but when you focus completely, like a beam of light concentrated through a lens, you begin to pierce the surface. This focus isn't strain, it's surrender to the moment. It's a return to presence. When these 3 forces combine, something profound begins to unfold. They're not tricks or hacks. They're ancient truths, proven over centuries of quiet exploration. And when you engage all 3, you don't create something new. You reveal something ancient, something that has always been yours. But before you attempt techniques, before you learn breath patterns or posture, understand this. The most important temple is within. Your external space can help, but it's not essential. Candles, stones, and symbols might deepen the atmosphere, but your mind is the real ground. If it's cluttered, distracted, and frantic, no external tool will help you cross the threshold. Think of your mind like soil. If it's overgrown with weeds of worry, resentment, and noise, no seed of awareness can grow. You don't need to clear it all overnight. Start small. Create a quiet mental space, just a few minutes a day, where you return to stillness, to breath, to presence. That repetition is how the door begins to open. Your location matters less than your intention. It could be in your room, on a quiet walk, even sitting in a parked car. The universe doesn't wait for perfect timing. It responds to sincerity. And as you commit, even in imperfect circumstances, you begin to anchor this gift in your life. Don't wait for perfect silence. Let the world's noise become your training ground. The hum of a fan, the murmur of voices, even traffic. They can become part of your rhythm. It's about learning to hold your center amidst the swirl, to breathe deliberately even when the world around you spins. 10 minutes a day, that's all it takes. 10 minutes of focused, honest practice will begin to shift your awareness. Over time, those 10 minutes stretch, your perception deepens, and suddenly, your waking life begins to feel different. You notice things you used to miss. Patterns emerge, feelings sharpen, and the veil, once so opaque, becomes translucent. Now comes the ritual, not of religion, but of direct engagement with your deeper self. The breathing pattern known by few, passed down in shadowed corners of forgotten wisdom. It's structured, intentional. 7 breaths, each one a step deeper into the inner sanctum. The first breath is an invitation. As you inhale, visualize golden light entering your chest. Not as a fantasy, but as a declaration. You are aligning. As you exhale, imagine dust leaving your shoulders, tension melting. With each breath, you step away from the rush of daily concerns. By the second and third breath, time starts to lose its grip. The sharp edges of the day soften. You feel as though the world slows down, like a river slipping into still waters. Don't resist this. Let it carry you inward. Each breath should feel fuller than the last, not forced but intentional. Your body begins to hum. Your mind loosens its grip. By the 4th and 5th breath, something new arises. A pressure, a vision, a floating awareness just behind your brow. Some see colors. Some feel their body grow light. Others feel like they're being watched by something not of this world, but from within it. These sensations are not distractions. They are signals, responses from your inner sight. Let the experience unfold without clinging. You are not here to control. You are here to allow. The 6th and 7th breath will carry you to the doorway. Not of dreams, not of hallucination, but of expanded clarity. You remain awake, but on the edge of something vast. It's like standing at the shore of an infinite ocean, and for the first time, seeing the moon reflected not just in the water, but in yourself. Stay with this calm alertness. Don't chase it. Let it bloom on its own. This gift is like a wild creature. If you run after it, it retreats. But if you wait, still and open, it comes willingly. What you've just begun is more than a practice. It's a remembering. There exists a place inside the human mind that rarely gets acknowledged. A space so fleeting and subtle that most pass through it without ever realizing. It's not a dream, not quite wakefulness either, but a strange limbo where thoughts soften and the usual clamor fades. You've likely visited it hundreds of times without even knowing. That split second, just before you fall asleep, when your body lets go but your mind lingers, that's the edge of something profound. Ancient teachings called it the blind pocket of awareness, a sliver in consciousness where the fabric between realities thins. This state doesn't shout, it whispers, it hovers just out of reach, never arriving when summoned, but often drifting in when you stop reaching. It's there, not as a void, but as a fertile silence. The mind, like an overfilled cup, has to empty a little before something new can be poured in. That emptiness, so feared by the thinking mind, is the very soil where inner sight grows. You can't hunt this space like a prize. It reveals itself only when you become still enough to notice the quiet between your thoughts. Like watching leaves float on a slow river, the trick is not to reach for any one idea, but to simply observe the movement without interfering. And within that motionless awareness, gaps appear, tiny rips in the mental fabric. These gaps are not accidental. They're entry points. At first they may last no more than a heartbeat. But in that sliver something strange happens. Time stretches, reality feels less dense, memories surface that weren't tied to any moment. Sights from dreams you never had, emotions with no trigger. These are the whispers of the inner current. Think of your consciousness like a vast ocean with layers of waves. On the surface, things are hectic. Decisions, schedules, conversation. But dive beneath that chaos and you'll find slower rhythms. Still deeper, you'll encounter the undercurrent, quiet, deep, and immense. This is where the inner vision lives, beyond noise, beyond logic. Every person dances between these states all day long. You shift without knowing. Alert in the morning, foggy after meals, dreamy at dusk. But those fluctuations aren't random, they're signatures. Each one represents a different frequency of your brain's activity, just like different channels on a radio. The waking state is sharp, linear, logical. It's fast-moving and detail-focused. But drop beneath that, and you'll find slower, more open modes of thought. Like shifting from chatter to music, the deeper waves allow symbolic meaning to emerge, emotions to rise, and intuition to bloom. You've likely felt this shift without naming it. Perhaps while walking in nature, your thoughts softened. Maybe during a long drive, you slipped into a quiet clarity, receiving ideas that felt like they came from somewhere else. Or in moments of grief or awe, when language fails and something deeper takes over. Those moments are doorways, not accidents, not hallucinations, invitations. With practice, you begin to recognize these inner shifts, the way your body responds when you're entering a deeper wave, a tingling in your chest, a pressure behind the forehead, the sensation of being both here and somewhere else at once. These are signs that the veil is growing thin, and the more you learn to dance with these states, rather than fear or control them, the clearer your inner sight becomes. But nothing this powerful awakens without trial. Every journey into the unknown comes with guardians, tests that don't wear name tags, but disguise themselves as inner tension. You may feel resistance not from outside forces, but from within. That's part of the initiation. The first of these shadows is doubt, not surface-level questioning, but a deep, bone-level uncertainty, the kind that whispers, "What if none of this is real?" It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, wondering whether to jump. That doubt is the echo of your conditioning, of a lifetime spent believing that only what can be measured has value. But doubt is not the enemy, it is the first test. It asks, how badly do you want to see? The next presence you'll meet is fear. It doesn't always wear the face of terror. Sometimes it appears as hesitation, a sudden chill, an urge to stop just as you begin to feel something. This fear stems from crossing a threshold. Your mind resists what it doesn't understand. It would rather remain with the known discomfort than venture into uncertain truth. But fear is a gatekeeper, not a wall. Move gently through it, and you'll find that it dissolves. And then there's the temptation of speed, impatience. In a world obsessed with instant results, this guardian may be the hardest. You'll want signs, you'll crave proof. But awakening does not obey timelines. It unfurls like a flower, according to its own rhythm. Rushing only closes the petals. Stillness, trust, repetition, these are your tools. But perhaps the trickiest guardian is the feeling of spiritual pride. As your perception expands, as your awareness deepens, you may begin to feel different, special, set apart, and in that moment, your vision narrows again. The ego, hungry for identity, will try to claim even your most sacred experiences. This guardian asks you to release the desire to be seen as enlightened and instead simply be awake. These challenges aren't roadblocks, they're signposts. Each one invites you to deepen your humility, your patience, your presence. As you pass through them, you become more clear, not just in sight, but in heart. And then, without warning, something shifts. It doesn't arrive with fireworks, it's quiet, like waking from a dream and realizing you're already standing. The world around you looks the same, but something fundamental has changed. Trees seem more alive. Conversations carry hidden layers. Coincidences pile up like breadcrumbs, leading to something you can't yet name. People begin to appear at exactly the right moment. Books find their way to you. Dreams grow more vivid, carrying messages that feel less symbolic and more direct. You're tuning in, not to something new, but to what was always there. The change might arrive as a sensation, a sudden clarity, a knowing that settles into your bones, not as information, but as truth. Some describe it like removing a veil. Others say it's like returning home to a place they'd never physically visited, but always remembered. The experience is different for everyone, but the after effect is universal. You cannot go back to sleep. You can pretend for a while. You can return to the familiar patterns, but something deep inside will always pulse with the memory of that clarity, and slowly it calls you back. This awakening happens in layers. It is not a single flash of light. It's a deepening spiral, each revelation opening new questions, new visions, new depths. You begin to realize that what you once thought was the destination was merely a threshold. Behind each insight is another door, another corridor of meaning. And as the world begins to unfold in this new way, time itself starts to feel different. Moments stretch, space feels wider. You begin to glimpse the threads connecting events, past, present, and future, like a spiderweb glowing under moonlight. Your thoughts start to carry weight. Intentions ripple outward with more impact. It feels like you've stepped behind the curtain, like you've gained access to the backstage of existence. But with great clarity comes responsibility. You are no longer a passive traveler. You become an interpreter, a participant, a translator of the unseen. This is where many falter, confusing clarity with control, mistaking insight for power. But the true strength lies in balance. You begin to experience impressions, flashes of insight that feel deeper than thought. You may walk into a room and feel the residue of conflict. You may dream of people you haven't met yet. Symbols begin to follow you, not just in meditation, but in street signs, overheard words, songs that seem to speak directly to your condition. Life becomes a living message. But it's crucial to learn discernment. Just as your physical eyes can mistake a shadow for a figure, your inner vision can misread signals. Not every image is prophecy. Not every emotion is a guide. Some are echoes, some are noise. You must learn to test what you see against your inner compass, not the analytical mind, but that deep resonance in your chest that never lies. To stabilize this perception, you must build an anchor, not a rigid belief, but a living, breathing trust in your ability to navigate. This anchor is built through discipline, through journaling your experiences, through reflection, through humility. It doesn't come from always being right. It comes from being willing to question, to revise, to grow. This isn't about escaping reality. It's about re-entering it with new eyes. It's not about floating above the world. It's about sinking into it so deeply that every stone, every breeze, every fleeting glance becomes sacred. This is not transcendence in the old sense. It's embodiment. Now the real challenge begins, not staying in the state of expanded perception, but learning to carry it with you, into your work, into your conversations, into the mundane moments of your life. Enlightenment is not retreat, it's return to the market, to the table, to the family dinner. Only now you see through different lenses. You start noticing things you missed, the tension in a friend's voice, the sadness behind a smile, the quiet miracle of breath. Your life becomes textured, rich, complex in the most beautiful way. You start to act differently, not from obligation but from awareness. You speak with more care, You listen more deeply. You move through spaces like someone who knows they are watched, not by judgment, but by connection. You become aware of energy, how yours moves, how others affect you. You'll sense which places drain you, which ones charge you. You'll instinctively start to protect your attention, to withdraw from what numbs you and gravitate toward what awakens. Silence will feel more valuable than noise, presence more nourishing than performance. And through it all, something beautiful happens. These perceptions become less foreign. They settle in. They become your new normal. You don't have to think about them. You live them. The line between the mystical and the mundane fades. Your vision no longer turns on and off. It stays open, not in a way that overwhelms, but in a way that hums gently in the background of every experience, reminding you that you are not separate, not lost, not confused, but deeply and eternally connected to everything. This is only the middle of the journey. There comes a moment when the veil doesn't just lift, it dissolves, not with a flash or a bang, but like mist retreating under sunlight. You begin to feel as if your senses no longer end at the edge of your skin. Sounds carry more weight. Shapes seem to glow with some inner significance. But more than that, the boundary between inner and outer starts to blur. Thoughts no longer seem to belong entirely to you. Feelings emerge that are not triggered by anything in your environment, and yet they arrive with the force of deep memory. You are not hallucinating. You are perceiving differently, fully, through a lens that was dormant, not broken. Reality, which once looked like a stage, now begins to resemble a vast network. Each action resonates, each word seems to vibrate with a ripple of consequence. The subtle becomes the loudest voice, and ordinary things, a flickering candle, a passing glance, a sudden gust of wind, begin to feel like messages coded in symbols, waiting for someone like you to notice. Synchronicity becomes more common, not because the world is changing, but because your vision is aligning with its rhythms. You might think of someone and they call. You might feel a pull to take a different path, only to find something or someone waiting for you there. These are not accidents. These are echoes from the deeper structure of existence. But you must be careful not to worship these signs. They are not gods, they are guides. They do not exist to tell you what to do, but to mirror what you are becoming. The moment you chase the sign instead of the source, your clarity begins to waver. It's easy to get swept away by these new senses, to begin believing you've become someone otherworldly, that you have evolved past the need for groundedness. But the truth is more humbling. You haven't grown out of anything. You've simply remembered how to listen. And this listening, this radical presence, must be anchored, not in ideas, not in lofty abstractions, but in the body, the breath, the world around you. Without an anchor, perception drifts, and when it drifts too far, it disconnects. Ancient seekers knew this. That's why they returned again and again to their anchor points: walking, breath work, focused movement, sacred repetition. These weren't rituals of control, they were acts of returning to balance, to clarity, to stillness. You must find your own anchor. It may be silence, or gardening, or the weight of a stone in your palm. It doesn't need to be spiritual in appearance, it only needs to be honest, something that holds you steady when the inner waves swell and the visions blur. Because as powerful as awakening is, the real work begins when you're no longer seeking flashes of insight, but instead learning how to carry that insight into your regular life. Not escape from the world, but become more present within it. That is the test. Can you stand in line at a crowded store, feel the noise, the chatter, the rush, and still hold that deeper awareness? Can you drive through traffic, be cut off, and instead of reacting with anger, feel the unfolding dance of all lives intersecting? Can you listen to someone speak not just their words, but their heart behind the words, and offer a silence so full that it heals? This is not about being better. It's about being real, awake, grounded. And yet, even as you integrate these layers, the visions won't stop. They'll keep coming. Some will be gentle, a symbol in a dream, an emotion that wasn't yours. Others will shake you. You might see possibilities that haven't happened yet. You might feel the pain of someone across the world, or glimpse memories that do not belong to your timeline. This is where many lose their footing. Because when you begin to move through layers of time and space, when your inner vision expands beyond the linear, it can be disorienting. You must learn to discern. Some perceptions are symbolic, some are literal, some are simply emotional echoes from another's field. You are tuning into a cosmic broadcast, and not every frequency is yours to hold. That's where your anchor saves you, not from the experience, but from misinterpretation. The truth is, there are multiple layers of reality existing simultaneously. Like pages in a book, each layer contains its own language, its own texture. Most live only on the page they can touch. But with inner vision, you begin to flip through the book. You glimpse future pages. You reread old chapters. You even see the hands that are writing. But it's not enough to see. You must learn to translate. And translation requires humility. What you experience in altered states may feel absolute, but it's filtered through your own lens, your beliefs, your wounds, your hopes. You will not always interpret it correctly. That's not failure, that's learning. So keep track. Keep a record, not just of what you saw or felt, but how it changed your choices, how it echoed through your decisions. Your life will become your laboratory, your memories, your data. As these experiences deepen, you may find that certain environments become harder to tolerate, not because you're superior, but because your sensitivity has increased. Crowds, loud noises, chaotic spaces, they may now feel louder than ever. Your system, once numb, is alive. It reacts. This is not a weakness. This is your nervous system adapting. Just like a muscle regaining movement after being still for too long, it will ache before it strengthens. Honor these shifts. Give yourself permission to say no to what no longer aligns, to retreat when needed, to surround yourself with beauty, quiet and meaning. You are not withdrawing, you are replenishing. And over time, something remarkable will occur. These abilities, this sight, this sensitivity, they will cease to feel magical. Not because they've faded, but because you've grown into them. Like a child who learns to walk and no longer celebrates each step, because now it's simply how they move through the world. This is the final paradox. The more you live from this awareness, the more natural it becomes, until the line between the sacred and the mundane vanishes. You will begin to wash dishes with the same attention you once reserved for meditation. You will look into the eyes of strangers and see galaxies. You will sit beneath a tree and it will speak to you without words, not in fantasy, but in essence. Because you are no longer just seeing things. You are seeing into them, through them, with them. And the question will no longer be, how do I awaken, but how do I serve? How can you offer this awareness to the world without preaching, without performance, but simply through presence? Perhaps it's in the way you speak to someone who's hurting, or how you slow down when others rush. Maybe it's in the gentleness you bring to conflict, the patience you offer when others lash out. This is where the deepest transformation occurs, not in what you see, but in what you become because of it. You become a tuning fork, a mirror, a flame, not above others, not separate, but deeply human. and yet wholly connected to something far beyond. There will still be struggles. Awakening does not erase pain. In fact, it often heightens it. Because now you feel more. You see more. The veil of denial no longer shields you. But neither does it blind you. You begin to move through the world with both tenderness and power, with awareness and mystery. And one day, without realizing, you will find yourself guiding others, not through instruction, but through example. Your very presence becomes a reminder to others that something more is possible, that they too are not broken, not lost, not small. You become a lighthouse, not to shine brighter than anyone else, but to help others remember their own light. And the world changes, not all at once, not in grand events, but in quiet ripples, a moment of kindness, a shared breath, a truth spoken with love. This is integration. This is what it means to return, not just to the world, but to yourself. To become so attuned, so deeply rooted in presence, that even the ordinary feels miraculous. And this miracle is not outside you. It never was. It is inside every breath, every blink, every silence. You are not seeking a destination. You are remembering how to be fully here. There is a moment after the awakening, after the spark, after the flood of insight, where things grow quiet again, not the quiet of emptiness, but the stillness of new ground beneath your feet. You're no longer standing where you once stood. The scenery may look the same. The furniture hasn't moved. The people haven't changed. But you have. And because of that, the world itself seems to shift in response. It reflects back a different kind of rhythm, one tuned to the frequency of your inner sight. But now comes the most vital, most overlooked part of this transformation, not the soaring into altered states, not the chasing of visions or signs, but the return, the re-entry, bringing all that you felt, seen and realized back into the spaces where ordinary life unfolds, at the grocery line, in your morning coffee ritual, in the way you speak to someone who doesn't understand what's changed in you. This is the integration, and though it may seem quieter, it is far more profound. Imagine you've been handed a new language, one that lets you perceive the unspoken, the invisible, the potential within all things. What use is this language if you speak it only to yourself? The real art lies in translation, translating expanded awareness into grounded action. That's the bridge. That's the work. Start small. Start honestly. It could be in how you begin your day. Do you greet the morning with resistance or with reverence? Do you move through tasks with presence or with pressure? These small gestures, invisible to the outside world, are everything. They are the roots that allow your inner vision to remain steady, even as the wind of daily life blows hard. Many seekers reach the edge of awakening and believe they must now become teachers, that they must announce their transformation, share their revelations, change others. But wisdom does not demand to be declared. It breathes in silence. It moves like water, finding cracks, softening walls. Let your life be the message. Let your gentleness speak louder than your claims. Let your clarity create space for others to find their own. There will be moments when you'll want to retreat, when the noise of society feels too sharp, too fast, too loud. This isn't weakness. It's sensitivity readjusting to density. Don't judge these instincts. Honor them. You may need more time in solitude now. You may find that what once entertained now feels hollow, that certain environments leave you tired instead of energized. This is part of the recalibration. Your system is finding a new rhythm. And while you honor that, also remember, your awakening is not an escape from this world. It is a deeper engagement with it. The more you tune in to what's real within, the more you must bring that awareness into what is real around you. You begin to see suffering differently, not as something to avoid, but as something to meet with presence. You feel the fear behind anger, the longing behind judgment, the pain behind cruelty, and rather than being pulled under by these things, you remain steady. Not because you've transcended emotion, but because you're no longer ruled by reaction. Your perception becomes precise. You see not just what people say, but what they hide. You hear the unsaid. You read silence. And because of this, you may feel more alone at first. Not because you've become separate, but because very few people are ready to be seen at that level. Your presence will sometimes challenge others without you speaking a word. That's part of the burden and the gift. You'll be tempted to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Don't. You're not here to make others feel small, but to remind them what they've forgotten. And that reminder is clearest not through explanation, but through embodiment. Keep a record of your path. It doesn't need to be poetic or elaborate. A simple note on a napkin, a few words spoken into your phone's recorder, a scribbled symbol that captures a feeling. These are the markers of your map. And one day, when the path feels unclear again, as it always does from time to time, these markers will lead you back. You might feel called to share, to teach, to guide. But before you do, ask yourself this: am I sharing from fullness or from the desire to be seen? True guidance arises from overflow, not from lack. When your cup spills because it cannot hold more, then you know the time is right. As you integrate, you will also notice your relationship with time begins to shift. You no longer move through days like ticking boxes on a list. You begin to feel time differently. Some moments stretch wide like valleys, others pass like shadows. You'll learn to listen to your body, to rest when you need, to create when inspiration strikes. Productivity is replaced by alignment. You move with the current rather than against it. You also start to witness the intelligence of life more clearly. The way everything seems to arrive exactly when it should. The person, the book, the idea, the opportunity. It's not magic. It's alignment. When your inner state matches your true path, life meets you there. The world is not punishing or rewarding you. It's responding to your vibration. This doesn't mean everything becomes easy. Storms still come, loss still hurts, but your posture changes. You face life upright, present, open. You no longer beg for answers, you listen for them. You no longer grasp, you receive. Your relationship to control softens. You begin to trust that what is truly yours cannot be taken, and what leaves was never meant to stay. There's a phrase often whispered in sacred circles: return to the marketplace with gift-bestowing hands. It means don't stay on the mountaintop. Don't vanish into caves of clarity. Bring what you found down the mountain, into the marketplace, into the everyday. Bring it to the child crying on the bus, to the cashier who looks exhausted, to the stranger who avoids eye contact because they don't believe they matter. Your awakening is not just for you. It is for every life you touch, even if they never know what changed in you, even if you never speak of it. This is how the world shifts, quietly, invisibly, through the hearts of those who remember who they are and live from that truth. Over time, your old self will fade like a story you once loved but no longer tell. You'll forget who you were trying to impress. You'll stop chasing what never fed your soul. You'll laugh more, cry more, feel everything more, but from a place of depth, not drama, from wholeness. And yet, there will always be more to see. This path is not linear, it spirals. You return again and again to familiar lessons, but each time with more grace, more openness. You'll meet new guardians at new thresholds. You'll forget and remember, lose your way, and find it again. This isn't failure. This is rhythm. Keep walking. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait to feel ready. The truth is, you are already ready. You were born ready. The fire within you doesn't need to be lit, it needs to be uncovered. The world will test you, not to punish, but to strengthen. Every detour teaches trust. Every silence teaches listening. Every heartbreak widens your capacity to hold love. Even your confusion is part of the path. It softens your mind, humbles your certainty, opens new questions. If you ever feel lost, return to your breath. It is the only thing that has walked with you every step of the way. It holds your rhythm, your memory, your future. Inhale like it's the first time. Exhale like you're letting go of centuries. Return to your body, to the place behind your brow where the pulse of knowing lives. Return to that quiet, the one behind every noise. Let that silence teach you. And above all, return to this truth. You are not becoming something new. You are shedding what is not yours. You are not chasing the light. You are remembering that you are the light. Even now, in this moment, with your eyes reading these words, something inside you knows. A quiet nod. A still yes. That's all it takes. Carry this with you, into your kitchen, into your relationships, into your work, into your rest. Let every part of your life become a sanctuary. Not because it is always peaceful, but because you are always present. You've begun a journey that has no end, not because you'll never arrive, but because you were never truly separate from the truth you seek. It has been walking beside you all along, whispering in the wind, waiting in your breath, smiling behind your eyes. Let this be your remembrance. You are home.